and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 125, recorded on December 18th, 2020. We need to talk, Lucy. From Zanata Consulting, I'm Brett Martin.
I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
A week till Christmas, Tyler. I don't know what to do. So because of that, we are actually going to record. If you listen to the show live, it drops on Monday, but you may notice that we recorded on Friday. We're actually going to record next week's episode on Tuesday, December 22nd. It's going to be a special edition. It's the CRM Zen Show Year in Review and our first annual Zen Me Awards. We spent 2.5 hours yesterday combing through the last 50 episodes that we've done for the whole year and just picking out the highlights on a month by month basis. It was really fun to look back at all the at what's happened over the last year, because man, it's been a lot. And good.
Yeah, everything from new products. I mean, all the updates across those different products. It's been the year of Begin. Looking at it in review, it was just so many different stories about Begin throughout the year. So it's always funny because you forget half the things we talk about on the show by the time it's the end of the year. So
Yeah. I mean, it really went from the ultralight, which it still is ultralight, but it was standalone, and now it's integrated with virtually everything, and it's got API now, and CRM synchronization, which is really interesting. There's a few little things they need to do there that we've talked about, but it was good to go through that. One of the things we didn't do, we're going to have to do is in the previous years, we looked at our 2018 wish list and we kind of checked off what was done. And then we made our 2019 wish list. So we never got to that part. We need to review those two things, see what was checked off, then make our 2020 wish list and get that done too. And then with the Zenmies, I don't know, it's going to be like a 4-hour long show, I think, next week by the time we do that. So, but I am looking forward to it, and that is going to be fun. If you have not signed up, just go to our website. I think it's there somewhere. If you go to crmzen.com, you can sign up. You can vote. Everything's all there. So go do it. If you get our newsletter, the links are there. Need people to vote, and we hope to see you next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's get into the news. We'll start with your favorite Zoho application, Zoho Analytics. They had a few new updates.
Yes, they have a handful of updates just around export formatting, kind of from different views, exporting from folders, exporting from your dashboards. The big one here that kind of stands out to me is this first update around merging more user filters. So basically what a user filter is, if I'm looking at a report or a dashboard, I can, pull down from a list or have a little dial and filter the whole dashboard based on a certain parameter. And a little while back, they rolled out the ability to stack those user filters as long as they were a text field. And so a common use case of that may have been, let's say you're looking at some leads and you're looking at some deal information all in one dashboard. You could have one filter for owner that would filter for lead owner and for deal owner. And now basically what they've done is add in additional fields, which you can stack, or additional field types. So now you can make a consolidated filter for currency values, for dates, for percentages, right? So they've kind of expanded that where, if you had quotes and deals, for example, you could filter the entire dashboard based on one currency value across all the different components. That's kind of a nice little quality of life thing that I think a lot of people will appreciate.
Nice. Anything else that grabbed you?
Just some new exports. You can export some things as zip files. So if I want to take an entire folder of reports and export them, I could just grab it as a zip. So kind of a nice little one rather than going into each folder or each individual item in a folder. So kind of a couple of things around just data mobility, kind of pulling things out of analytics.
Nice. I've been doing a lot with it. We did a webinar. Was last week's webinar on Google Ads?
Last week's or the week
it was
before,
Ring
maybe.
Central. Yeah, a couple weeks ago. And as we're kind of rolling out that service internally, it's we looked at a lot of, I think, hey, here's what's going on with, we've had AdWords people and you get standard reports and what you can get on the Google Ads dashboard. And, and our thing was kind of try to offer more, and you've just dug into it. And it's really interesting to see what you've done in analytics, where we're just sucking all that raw data in
Hmm.
from I mean, it's so much. It's just so granular, right down to every word and every click, and the kind of the data. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about how we're kind of taking that further. But it's nice to see what you can do in analytics. I mean, if you were to look at Google Ads and you go to that dashboard, you think, oh, this is everything I need, but in fact, it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, it only gets you up to, the person who clicked on the ad, and maybe you've got a conversion track to know that they filled out a form, but once they hit your CRM, unless you have things set up right, you don't really know which campaign they came from, all those
Yeah.
different data points. And so, we kind of marry all of that together in analytics by pulling in Google Ads data, pulling in your CRM data, and, creating the lookups where needed.
Yeah, kind of tell us. I think we're getting a much better idea of what's working just because we pulled all that stuff into analytics. All righty, let me go back. I think I missed one, so I don't want to skip a story here. And then the second news item of the week is a small one, but kind of cool. I don't know if this is an iOS yet, but Zoho Show, which if you're not familiar with it, that's their presentation software. It's basically PowerPoint. Um, on the on Android products now, they're now giving you kind of this central repository. So you have one little spot where you can view all the files that you've downloaded to your phone, and basically quickly get to whatever you need to get to. The nice thing, if you've never used either the mobile version, iOS, or the Android version of Zoho Show, is it's a great presentation tool. I mean, you
Hmm.
can, you're basically, it's kind of like your remote on stage, if you will. It's got your notes on it and your next slide, and it's really well done. And you actually can do some. I mean, I wouldn't really want to build a presentation on my phone, but from a presentation tool, it's really really well done, and they've done a great job with it. And this just makes it, I think, easier to uh, get to your presentations. You've downloaded them, you've got them right there on your phone, you're slinging them to whatever TV or whatever projector you're going to do. And I think it just makes things a little easier. So nice little enhancement. You have to talk about this, Tyler, because we only have two news stories this week. There has to be something more to say. All right. Moving on. This is kind of interesting. So, in my news feed this week, Zoho has commissioned from CRM Essentials a research survey, US and Canada Adjunct Surveillance Survey. And, Zoho is kind of setting themselves up as the Apple, I think, of the software world. They're real big on privacy. They don't share anything. They don't make any money off of any of their user data. And this report, I think, is to kind of hammer that home. It's interesting, though, 62% of US and Canadian companies do not inform their customers that they have tracking codes from third party services on their websites, despite the majority claiming they have a well defined privacy policy. Uh, Interesting.
Yeah, and this is almost in line. I don't know if you saw the story, not related to Zoho at all, but Apple in iOS 14 is going to force Facebook to allow opt in or opt out to third party website trafficking or
Right.
tracking. So, basically what that means is if you have I think they call it a Facebook pixel, right? That's tracking you across all these different sites that you touch, then Facebook knows what you're doing even when you're not on Facebook, right? Just
Yep.
through tracking any of the activities on your phone. And this is kind of a similar vein as that, where, there's those little pop-ups that say, hey, we use cookies to, identify you and make your experience better, right? It's that little pop-up that you probably started seeing on websites about 6 months ago. So it's a compliance step that I think is going to become more standard, right? Because I think it's common knowledge nowadays that Facebook is going to use your Facebook data, but what a lot of people might not realize is that it's also using all of your other web usage data to target ads and, group you into segments for marketers on the platform.
Yeah. And speaking of analytics, this is actually a press release they published, but Zoho took all that data and they've created a publicly visible analytics dashboard where they're kind of breaking it all down. So, not a lot of questions here. Basically, 6, are you aware of any third-party code automatically installed? Yeah, and just do you communicate with customers about using third-party code? Most people don't. Uh, how do you characterize the impact of third-party ads on your platform? I mean, I guess it's a bit of a problem. I don't know how you wouldn't know in today's day and age that this stuff is on a website.
Yeah, maybe we're just in the bubble, right? I mean, we do this kind of for a living. I think it's easy to forget, right? Or just not think about it if it's not in your face. Yeah, and what Mark's highlighting, one of our live attendees, is that oftentimes on Facebook, it's not even just what you do; they're also tracking what everyone around you is doing, and based on what people that you're connected to are doing, they can also market to you. So it really creates a big web of understanding of who are you, who are all the people that you know, and what do you do across any website that you touch that's tracking with Facebook. Gets to be quite a detailed set of data that they've got over there.
Yeah, I think there's the convenience aspect to it, and then I use an ad blocker, which is, there are a couple of them out there, and we've highlighted several on the show. But occasionally, more and more you're getting to sites that say, hey, you can look at our site, but you have to turn the ad blocker off. And as soon as you do, the fact that you've been tracked and surveilled becomes so obvious. It's funny. I was at Bass Pro Shops looking at some camping gear, and I was just adding stuff to a cart just so I could refer back to it, right? I wasn't planning on buying it. And so all of a sudden, I'm on the site and there is my entire shopping cart from Bass Pro Shops just sitting there on the side on like Forbes or something.
Yeah.
You're right. It goes on and on. But interesting survey. I wonder if Zoho is going to be doing more of those down the road. I think it's nice. I do love good research, and something we've talked about doing. But glad to see they're out there doing it. And they're just kind of highlighting. Again, I think that they love that Apple privacy policy, not share the customer data. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to come back to be a good thing for them. And that brings us to our implementation of the week, which basically was for Zanata Consulting.
Yes, this was kind of an internal build out that we did where, we've always been pretty meticulous about our Google ads. For us, it's a part of our business and, something that we want to track. But, over the past month or so, we've done a whole rebuild on the site, so we redesigned it. We kind of updated some of the flows, updated some landing pages, just to give the thing, fresh coat of paint. We wanted to redesign it. And one of the things that we did is, a lot of the different places we're actually capturing information, we use Zoho Forms. Reason being Zoho Forms are super robust. I can integrate them to do just about anything in Zoho ecosystem, whether that's routing directly to the CRM, whether we're passing it through Zoho Flow to, check if someone might already exist to not create a duplicate. And if they don't, then we go ahead and create them. But, one of the things that has always been a little bit of a challenge for us is, when you click a Google ad, you're passed to the website with what are called UTM parameters. And, these are basically what correlate you being on the site with how you got there. So if you clicked a Google ad, you're going to have a campaign ID. You're going to have your search term. You're going to have a click ID, right? An identifier for that specific click. And, over in Zoho Forms, they've really been working on UTM tracking, consistently over the past, 6 months to a year. It's been a big focus to improve. And their new tracking code is just great. So it was super, super easy. We were expecting this would take a little bit more pushing and shoving, right, to make sure that all the data can get passed to the form. But it was really as easy as turning on UTM tracking for the form, grabbing a little piece of embed code, which is the same for every form. So it's just one piece of code, dropped it in the footer of all the different pages on the website, which with our little, theme editors, you just update it in one place and it goes everywhere. And then we just had to grab just the raw iframes. So nothing fancy needed for the embed at all. We just dropped the iframe right in there. And the tracking code just passes all the UTM from the Cliq just directly through with the form submission. We were expecting when we first did it, we thought there's no way it's going to pass it through an iframe. Surely we're going to have to embed it with JavaScript or embed it with HTML and make some tweaks, to kind of make it work. But it was just a straight up iframe, and the tracking code just passed UTM right on through and directly into the CRM. So it's about as easy as it could get. And, we wanted to just highlight it today because, the Zoho Forms team did such a good job in building that out and just making it seamless and easy.
Yeah, and our reason for doing this is we do spend a lot of money on AdWords, and we do spend a lot of money on advertising in general. And we have landing pages, and we're out there on various sources. And as we kind of have, number one, we're rolling out our Google, for clients only. We're not doing Google ads for anybody who wants to, hey, manage our Google ads. But for those that are doing them, we're really trying to perfect the key performance indicators, right? And what we can measure and how much data we can pull in, And so as a team, as we've kind of really been looking into this, I think it's improved a lot of things. Number one, we're finding out some new things like this, for example, that we knew was there, but we didn't really know the power of it. But then, man, the amount of data you're able to get on every external click coming in, and that you can pass through and capture and right back to the record, then dump into analytics and report on. I mean, you're getting pretty granular with some of this stuff.
Yeah. And the big thing with Google ads is you don't just want to track your Google ad performance, right? And that's where we kind of were stuck at with the new website until we built all this out, where, we know that certain keywords, right, are in more of our campaigns, right? And so we can track different keyword usage, different term usage, kind of know what's working, what's driving traffic. But the problem is, once they actually fill out that form and convert to the CRM and we create our lead, that's kind of where the tracking stops. So the form could basically take us through knowing that a conversion happened, right? Meaning a form was filled out, but that was about it. And the problem with that is that it just doesn't tell enough story to really know which ads are working, right? Because someone could, let's say we ran an ad for Zoho support, and someone clicks on that ad and fills out the form, and they might think we're Zoho, right? They might have just done a quick Google search, they click it, they fill out the form, they think we're, Zoho, and they need a password reset, right? Well, that's not exactly a good lead for us. And as far as Google Ads knows, you converted a lead, right? You made a lead from that click. So, our kind of obsession over the past couple of weeks has been all that data needs to flow in with the lead so that we can then know this campaign made 10 leads and 5 of those leads converted, which means they're good quality leads. And then 3 of those leads actually turned into closed won deals, which generated us this amount of revenue. So that we can know in a given month, we spent $1,000 on a campaign and it generated us $5,000 of new business. So our ROI, is this, and we can decide accordingly, So what we'll be doing next is kind of dialing in all the different campaigns, because that's kind of your key ROI tracking, right? Is on a specific campaign. So if you're a barbershop, maybe you run one campaign for discount haircuts, you run one campaign for same day shaves, right? And you start to figure out which ones of those work and which don't. But unless you're actually capturing that campaign ID that a lead came in with, you really just can't tell the quality of the leads and the the revenue generated from deals that come from those leads. So, and again, I mean, the Zoho Forms just does a great job at basically connecting the dots there. Because as you're mentioning, once I have a lead and that lead has a campaign ID, I can link that campaign ID to Google Ads information and get super, super granular and just nerd out with all the specifics about that lead and the conversion process.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And we're actually going to talk a little bit more about that later on, some more when we talk about our tip and trick of the week as well and how that can all tie together. So with that, let's go to this week's reads. I went back to HubSpot again. There were a couple great articles this week, but they're smart. Last week they dropped a huge 12-minute article on basically everything you need to know to write a marketing budget. And they gave you 8 different marketing budget templates that were that you could actually pull from to build out your marketing budget. And then this week they dropped everything you need to know to write a marketing plan. This is by Clifford, and they even include a very nice template. Actually, I took a look at it. It's not bad at all, and it really just talks about your overall marketing plan, what you need to think about. And we've covered a lot of this in the past. You know, what's your mission? What are your KPIs? Kind of what we're talking about now. Buyer personas. I mean, we've written a lot of articles on buyer personas and how you should identify that. What are your initiatives and strategies? What's missing? Basically, a SWOT analysis. What's your budget? You did that last week if you did that. And then, again, there's a lot of SWOT stuff in here: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Anyway, it kind of breaks it down bit by bit by bit. Super nice little template if you want to build this out. And this is the time of the year when you kind of got to go through these things and make sure you've got all your ducks in a row. I mean, you and I have spent an inordinate amount of time over the last couple of weeks on 2021 planning, but it always pays off for us. Every time we sit down, we make tweaks to the business, we make tweaks to how we're doing things. And since our business is actually sitting down and talking to people about their businesses and how to make them more efficient, we need to eat our own dog food and continually do this. So, pretty nice article. HubSpot just has the writers, man. I'll tell you what, they get the very best freelance people to come out and do some just amazing stuff for them. So, good stuff.
Yeah, and again, I love how they include, we're basically raving fans of this blog at this point, like that they include all these templates, right? I mean, the budgeting template last week, and sure, you got to pony up an email address, but, getting that template to work from, I mean, I know for me, sometimes being able to start with something just skips you past, kind of organizing your page and all that. It saves you so much time to just jump in with a template you can work with.
Yeah, and it's a template, right? Suit it to your needs, twist it around. But you're right, it does. I mean, anytime you can get a good template, man, it's great. It's one of the things that you actually. I think. Yes, here's a suggestion. Zoho. If you go to like Microsoft has got amazing template libraries, whatever you're in, and Google's got some okay ones, and you can build some templates. I think it's something that I'd like to see Zoho work on is, or just even create an open source like template where people can deposit really sweet templates that they might want to put in for their, for the Office suite. But good stuff. All righty. So let us move on to what's over on Zanata.com. We have a blog on getting your small business organized with Zoho. This is kind of a quick one, mostly talking about the CRM and Zoho Docs and Zoho Forms, and basically just some quick little tips you can do to kind of get some things neatly organized, from newsletters to your CRM and whatever. I would call this one of our fluffier blogs, but it goes some good general info. Then we've got more guides that we've uncovered. This one's, according to Wayne, we may be at the end. it was a hard it was a hard dig for these two, but this actually is a really good one. It's called Into the Inbox, and it's basically about how to improve deliverability. And pretty nice. Pretty nice. It seems like so many times, we're talking with customers, and are there DKIM records set? Are there SPF records set? You know, is their list actually a good list?
Mm-hmm.
They don't get into because, man, if you get flagged as a spammer, it's just so hard to recover that domain.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is a really nice article.
Yeah, and a big one now that I've seen more and more is images. Having bulky content in the email oftentimes can get you caught too. So it's more and more, it's kind of like we always talk about with Google and SEO, and that it's always changing, right? Email deliverability is a changing game. I mean, for a lot of our emailing that we do, we try to keep everything as plain text as possible, because it just helps with deliverability so much when, Google scans the email and it doesn't see anything big and bulky or no attachments or nothing that's going to flag it if it's just text coming through.
Yeah, I think we went, what do we go, 6 weeks where we made our newsletter graphic,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we had graphics and headers and sections. And not only did I think people not like it as much, but deliverability went way down.
Yep.
Way down, which I thought was kind of kind of interesting. So, and by kind of changing that newsletter, it, number one, you can just scan it easier. It's just line by line by line by line by line. So,
Yep.
kind of an interesting, yeah, this is a good, anyway, nice find, Wayne. And then there's the Sales IQ Handbook on Intelligent Triggers. And this is really just kind of, things you might want to do. And if you got sales IQ, a nice little 6-step approach to engaging people using your chat bot and various other things. So, um, I don't know. Wayne says we're out, but I'm hoping for a few more of these. We might not be able to deliver 2 every week going forward, but
Yeah, and this is a good one here too. If you were in our Sales IQ webinar, you'll remember we talked about these kind of quickly, and we threw out an example or two for each of the different types of triggers. But this would be a great one to review if you want to go a little deeper on that. And basically gives you step by steps in here on how to set some of these up and what the workflow trigger will look like. Super powerful stuff and a good read.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if he found these and they're still so good. I think there's got to be more. Wayne, keep digging.
Anyone from Zoho listening, send them our way. We'll take them.
Bring them on in. All righty. And then our application of the week. So I'm sitting here, we're talking about, oh gosh, I'm having trouble finding applications of the week. And, you know, uh, Kevin gave us Unroll Me, which I love, by the way, Kevin. I use that all the time. We did that one a few weeks ago. And then I had run out so much that we did a camera review, I think a few weeks ago. So, but I thought, hey, why don't I go into the Zoho Marketplace and just do a sort of the top rated applications, period. So you actually have to go into by category. So I started in CRM, and the top rated application is SMS-Magic. And it's interesting this came up because we did our webinar on Ring Central, and there's a couple applications that do kind of quasi nice Ring Central SMS integration. Um, there's a pretty good one. For some reason, it's not in the marketplace anymore, which is interesting. And I had someone kind of call me and we were talking through, and I know the person that developed it. I'm going to want to see what's going on there. But I hadn't looked at this one in a while, and we actually used a long time ago. But this is the top rated SMS extension, period. Uh, it has 592 reviews, and they are, it's these are pretty good. 4.8 stars. I mean, of the 592, they've got 400 and
Yeah,
554
and as a point of
stars.
reference, take a scan through the marketplace at some point. People are very honest when they don't like these plugins
Yes,
out there, and you will see low scores.
yes.
This is
And
not a
most,
place where it's easy to have a 5 out of 5. That's for
no,
sure.
no. And most of them don't get any reviews at all, which is kind of a big problem, right? You're looking at them, they've got 0 reviews, but this is, 5,300 installs, it looks like. Um, it's nice. I've used it in the past. So you basically, everything is handled by them. This is not go get a Twilio number and, go out and then, do the integration on this end and do all the webhooks. They're providing you the numbers. They're providing you the dashboard. They're providing you the back end integration. You're paying a little bit. You're paying for it. It's not cheap, but you can handle webhooks. There's all sorts of things you can do, and it is the entire conversation history across all Zoho modules within each record is there. So if you're having these texting conversations, it's pretty nice. And this is one just I hadn't even looked back at. I think the last time I looked at this was a couple of years ago. So it might be worth taking another look. They clearly are doing a lot with it, and evidently it is well loved. And this is not just a third party company out there that kind of wrote an integration. This is what they do. SMS
Mhm.
Magic's entire business. You can go to their website, sms-magic.com. They have an entire page devoted to Zoho. They need to update this. They've got 544 now in the marketplace. But it's pretty good. The pricing is a little bit all over. I mean, it's pricey. So for $50 a month, you only get 250 SMS credits. All right, so was that 20 cents a whack? Do I have that right?
Yeah,
It's
and then you're getting
expensive.
additional credits at 1.2 cents.
All right. Right.
from
So
there on out.
you can buy them from there. And then, you've got a little bit basic user license pricing and all of that kind of stuff. When I looked at this before, it was quite a bit different. It was something where you paid like, I want to say $500 and it gets you 2,500 credit. It was all kind of, it was an annualized type of plan. This is probably a better way to go, but it's good stuff. It's just, if you want it down and dirty and simple and install it yourself, SMS-Magic does a really good job.
Yeah, and I
So
think one of the things about this that it does well is basically when you most of the SMS integrations you can run with Zoho are going to be one of two. They're either going to be I can send an SMS from the contact record and see it there, or I can have a workflow send an SMS via some kind of webhook, but it's not going to be tracked in the customer record. They seem to have both of those. You can have it where, a workflow triggers a text. I can manually send a text. All those kind of roll into one view. So, you probably pay a little more than if you're to set this up with Twilio, or, if you're going to use the basic Ring Central where you're, slinging webhooks over there. Just Call was a similar one with webhooks. But yeah, this kind of gives you the full end to end. So pay a little bit more than some of those other services. But if SMS is going to be a big part of what you do, then it might be worth it.
yeah, for sure. For sure. And there are a lot of options around this now. I mean, campaigns, by the way, if you're just wanting to use campaigns, Zoho Campaigns has got a great SMS integration with Twilio. So you can kind of actually do email, text message. There's just so many ways to go. Catalyst Connect has got a great one we've talked about in the past. It kind of gives you a little drop down in Chrome, so you actually kind of have a real texting window.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to look at when you're doing this. There's no perfect solution for everyone, but there are so many solutions out there that I think if you look around hard enough, you're going to find one I think that works for you. All right, and that brings us to our tip and trick. Interesting. I did not know what your implementation of the week was going to be, but 2 weeks 2 weeks ago we did the webinar on Google Ads and Zoho, and this is kind of extracted from this. This is just a little 2-minute video that talks about another thing we do internally here, which is, and I think we're going to be automating this now. We never were in the past, but when I got a deal and I would associate the deal with a campaign called Google Ads, uh, then as long as you've got that, if you watch the webinar, you'll see to how actually to integrate Zoho CRM with Google Ads. Once you get that integration going, it's going to automatically track all your spend. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to give you conversions. Conversions are great. But what you really want to know is what Tyler was talking about, which is how many people closed at the end of the day. And now we're going to get more granular. I was kind of bucketing everything into, here's our ROI on Google Ads as a whole, which is not a bad thing. But now I think we'll start saying, for each and every ad spend we do, what's our ROI on those is related to that particular deal. But this is kind of how to tie that together and how to do it. It's just a quick little video, and I think worth taking a look at if you don't feel like watching the entire webinar, that is. All right, so let's go to our Q&A. We have a question. Mark says, there are not the thousands of vendor apps associated with Zoho as there are in Salesforce, etc. Even Apple doesn't get everything right. Does Zanata offer or recommend any apps that work with Zoho? Well, I think what we do, if you go back and you go to our, maybe we should aggregate these all into one place. But one of the reasons we redid the website is that we actually spun off to, we wanted to make a non-commercial. We're not in your face promoting Zanata or talking about that. So the CRM Zen Show has its own site, and if you go look at the show, we recommend a lot of apps. So if you scroll down and you go to kind of any of our shows and you scroll very, very much down to the bottom, you will see our application plugin of the week and how they work and what they do. And we usually talk about how they integrate with Zoho, but sometimes they're all over the map. I mean, the main thing, if you look at if you're watching us on video right now, you can kind of go into extensions and you can sort them by the top rated like we just did. And you can kind of see which ones are really getting the pull and which ones are really working. There are now thousands of applications actually in the Zoho marketplace. Some of them are good, some of them are not. We try these out all the time. And, Tyler, maybe that's something we do this year is where we kind of pull out, we go through the last 125 episodes, review the applications specific for Zoho and kind of pull them out and see which ones are really good. And it's also going to depend on, what you're after. As far as what kind of integration, because there are just so many of these. I can tell you the
Hmm.
PandaDoc app is great. um, the phone checker, we've talked about that. That's a great, I think we talked about that a couple episodes ago, right?
Yep.
That's a great one as well. Boy, but looking at this, boy, the disparity here, look at this, 592 reviews and just kind of drops off the cliff when you go to 5 stars,
Hmm.
huh? Buy Sync, if you want to sync with anything, it's a great app. So kind of a hard question to answer, Mark, but a good one. But I really recommend just rummaging around the marketplace, and you can kind of do a search for pretty much anything you're looking for. If I mean, like, let's go to Trello. So just typing in Trello for desk, Trello for connect, Trello for Cliq, Trello for CRM, mail. There are a lot of applications that are written for this. I don't know, Tyler, you got any advice on this?
Yeah, I mean, kind of to speak on, even Apple doesn't get everything right. If you look at our resource guide on Zanata.com, I mean, we try to highlight that as well. We kind of group the applications into yes, no, maybe, right? So, some of those applications that we don't feel are quite up to snuff, a common one we talk about is meetings, which we actually like, but it just can't record, right? So we try to group things into applications that we think are at or near best in class, which is a lot of them, right? I mean, the yeses are that's the biggest category. And then some of them that might be solid but not quite as full featured. Zoho Books is great, but if you're a contractor and you need certain types of bidding or proposal gen, you might just want to use QuickBooks, right? And we kind of touch on those. And there's a couple applications that we highlight that are either getting end of life, like Zoho Docs. You don't want to go and spend a lot of time configuring Zoho Docs. You want to go to Work Drive, right? Or ones that might have some functionality issues. So we'll be kind of quick on those. And, oftentimes, like if you look at bookings as an example, like we work with a lot of other applications that work well with Zoho, like Calendly or Acuity, that we can either use a plugin to integrate or do something custom, using Flow or using an integration tool. So, we generally try to be the honest on any of those apps, and we work with a lot of other tools that integrate with Zoho, whether it's HubSpot for email marketing if you need to do some crazy stuff, or Calendly, Acuity, QuickBooks for some basic integrations. Because the big thing is, I mean, Zoho might be able to cover most of the apps you need, but you might have one specific workflow or just requirement that doesn't quite work with their application. And oftentimes, we can get data flowing back and forth between them and make it work within the Zoho ecosystem. Not always. Every now and then, if you're running a desktop QuickBooks implementation, there's not a lot we can do. But most applications, we can work out some kind of workflow that at least integrates them lightweight with the Zoho apps that you use.
Yeah, but I think we got some talking to do here, Lucy, because there's some of these apps that can need to be moved around a little bit.
Yeah, I was thinking Work Drive there, and maybe that's a yes now for
That
sure.
needs to go up. Commerce needs to move up into maybe now, because if depending on how, if you're just doing a little thing. And by the way, some of these apps that are no, they're good apps. They just have, some of them just have like fatal flaws.
Yeah.
Meeting, if you don't really care about recordings, Meeting would be great, but it doesn't have a waiting room. That's kind of problematic. So someone goes to says, "Hey, the host isn't here," and it's not like it's going to automatically put you into the meeting or let the host know you're even waiting to get the meeting. You just kind of have to keep refreshing your URL over and over and over again, which is so it's got to be a no right at that point in time. It has a little trouble writing to some calendars. These are just two minor flaws that once fixed, it would probably move all the way up, into the maybe category, and that would just be because of some recording flaws that it's got, right? And then when that gets better, we'll go to yes. So we're adjusting this all the time, moving things up and down, but it's a good place to start and a good place to take a look. All righty, Tyler. Hey, we managed to stretch this show to like almost 40 minutes with just two news stories. It's fantastic. Well, we appreciate everybody for joining us. If you have any questions or comments, you can just drop us a line over at info@zenata.com.
And on our website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.